Okay. Here we go. Here's what we're going to start with. All you need to do is listen, because I guarantee you will find this interesting. Okay? When Christopher Columbus is going to show up to the Americas, I want you to know some real primary source accounts of what happened. I'll explain, but one of the trends in America in recent years is to get rid of Columbus Day and replace it with a different holiday, if you didn't know that. Okay? This is going to show you some reasons why people feel that way. So here's what happened. First, okay, when Christopher Columbus took that deal from the King and Queen of Spain to get his ship and his crew, besides getting the ship and the crew, what else was part of his deal? Bam, 10% of the money. What else? Governorship of any new land, which means he rules it under whom? The King and Queen of Spain. And remember, are they really zealous, pushy Catholics? So also he's going to claim it for his God and his King and Queen. When he set foot on the beach, this is what he pulled out and read to the first Indians he met. Now, I'm going to use the term Indian, and you need to know why. Because Christopher Columbus thought he was sailing west to get to India, when he showed up, where did he think he was? In India. So if you didn't know, that term Indian being applied to what most people now say Native Americans in the U.S., it's one of those mistakes from history because Christopher Columbus thought he was in India. Now, whether that's politically correct or not today is another question, but I'm going to use that term today in reference to 1492 because that's what Christopher Columbus said, and now you'll know why that name came to be, because he was confused. He thought he was in India. Here's what he read to the natives, even though they didn't speak Spanish. He had to pull out a sheet of paper, and here's what he told them when he showed up. I implore you to recognize the church as a lady, and in the name of the Pope, take the king as Lord of this land and obey his mandates. If you do not do it, I tell you that with the help of God, I will enter powerfully against you all. In your own words, what did he just tell them? Okay. Mr. Hunt, I heard more people say the right answer than just him. Repeat that, please.
Now he's gonna, if you don't listen to him or do that, he's gonna interface where you take over.
And what does he want him to do?
Obey the king and the church.
Surrender basically to the King of Spain, the Pope, and to his religion. Now, the native people could not understand him, but he read this to him. Okay, and he continued, I will make war everywhere and every way I can. I will subject you to the yoke and obedience to the church and majesty. I will take your women and children and make them slaves. The deaths and injuries that you will receive from here on will be your own fault and not that of His Majesty nor of the gentlemen that accompany me. Now, we can all agree, and I'll show you some examples later, he was a great navigator. He was a pretty good leader of his men. But do you see how that being the first thing that he said to native people would cause some today in the year 2015 to look back and say, wow, he doesn't sound like a real nice guy. Okay, so did you know that one of the trends in America is to get rid of Columbus Day and replace it with another holiday? Okay, I used to live in South Dakota. They don't have Columbus Day anymore. They have a state holiday where everybody gets the day off from school. Anyone know what holiday they replaced it with? Native American Day. Do you see why that sentiment would be true today? That's pretty brutal, horrible stuff to say. Accept my God and my King or you'll all die and it'll be your fault. Now, in the context of history, like you Portuguese from last week, remember their religious attitudes. We want everyone to be Catholic or dead, so that's why he said that. But we look today and say, it's pretty brutal stuff. So, here's a popular question people say. All right, if I'm a native, am I going to essentially surrender to him or am I going to fight back? What would you do? Yeah, you think so. You think so, okay? But I bet this will change your mind. Here's what he said in his diary entry the third day he made landfall in 1492, okay? They brought us parrots and balls of cotton and spears and many other things, talking about the natives. They willingly traded everything they owned. They were well built with handsome features. They do not bear arms and do not know them. I showed them a sword, and they took it and cut themselves out of ignorance. They would make fine servants. With 50 men we could subjugate or enslave them and make them do whatever we want. Now, how does that affect your attitude of if I was a native, I'd fight back? Why couldn't you?
Because he has boomsticks.
Okay, not even that. Remember, we're in the 15th century. So these Spanish guys have cannons, they have muskets, okay? But what was this native unfamiliar with? Swords. So one of the big misconceptions is things that we have today in North America, because we live on this continent, right, have always been here. Okay, number one misconception is everybody says, man, Native Americans were such awesome horsemen because they trained and bred horses for thousands of years. Horses are not native to this continent. They came over with Europeans. Now, Native Americans traded and acquired horses and became great horsemen, but they never had them until Europeans showed up. Another common misconception, Native Americans had weapons, but they didn't use steel, and they surely didn't use gunpowder. They'd use stone and sinew and animal parts, okay, like for a tomahawk or an arrowhead. They did not have steel. So would these guys have ever seen a sword before? You can tell he hasn't, because picture Columbus. He pulls out his sword kind of like, do you want to play with this? And the guy grabs it by the blade and is like, ow. Well, he's never seen a sword before. Now, that does not make them stupid, but it shows there's a gap in technology. So if you think that you would just fight back, not knowing what a sword is in the 15th century, good luck against the Spanish, because they have cannons. And if you're impressed by a sword, wait till you see their guns. He says right here, give me 50 Spanish guys and I'll conquer all of them and make them all my slave. And he was right, they could have. So, you're stuck with two bad choices if you're a native person. Surrender to them, essentially. Fight back, and if you fight back, you're going to die. Okay? It's a lose-lose situation for you. Now, we'll bring Columbus back in, but that's just to give you a little history. This is word for word what he read when he showed up, and that is word for word out of Christopher Columbus's own personal log, just like you're keeping today. Okay? So, we're going to start with episode 3. I'm going to give you control of your screen back. All you need to do is listen. Okay? If you get sidetracked and kind of drug into a wormhole of bad things happening to you, okay, just be patient. You need to know what your ratings are for each of the skills, so have that on your screen or on a sticky note. And then you need your piece of paper that has the pie chart with the numbers and a paper clip. If there's not a paper clip in your folder, I'll get you one. Huh? I know. It's because I put it close. If you need a paper clip because you lost or broke yours, no big deal. They're right here. Come grab one. Okay? I'll read you listen. So after leaving the Azores, if you're Portuguese, or the Canary Islands, now you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? So, you have spent another week at sea and must now make another supply and navigation check. The captain reports that the ship is making about 70 to 80 miles a day. However, you are sure that you are traveling at least 90, if not 100 miles a day. Why would the captain lie to you? So for a Jolly Rancher, let me give you a historical example of this. I'll get to you in one sec. Here's what Christopher Columbus wrote in his captain's log, his personal log he kept. Sunday, 9th of September. Sailed this day 19 leagues and determined to count less than the true number. The crew might not be dismayed if the voyage should prove long. That's my hint. Why would your captain lie to you? And think of, do you guys know what an odometer is on a car? Yeah. How long you've gone on the trip? He's lying in the log saying you didn't go as far as you really did. Why?
Because he's saying like they're going not as much miles as they are, so
Why?
it seems long when they
They'll be surprised by the time they
Remember, on this voyage, do they know how far away India is?
No.
Has anyone ever been here?
No.
No one's ever gotten across the Atlantic and came back to tell about it. Okay, you're right on what he did. Why do that, though?
Raise your hand.
Okay, finish.
Because then they'll like, it'll be a surprise when they show up.
Yeah, that's what I said. It seems shorter to them, so they're not.
Okay. Wanting it to seem shorter is exactly part of it. But there's a reason why you would want it to seem shorter, that someone is going to piggyback off of him, and if you get it, you both got a Jolly Rancher. Who can pick up where he left off and finish that? Of why?
So if the trip's too long, they cause a mutiny and they break
Ah.
out the ship.
Okay, so you're right, but he finished it and piggybacked for you. Think about if you go on a long car ride for Christmas break, who has to go more than, let's say, 150 miles? Anyone have a long drive?
Double that.
I don't even go. I got
When I go to
How many miles, do you know? Somebody give me a mileage. Okay, can I use 1,000? Okay, let me give you an example with Ivy. So, let's say you get in the car. Who's going to drive? Mom? I can't hear you because he was talking. Your brother? It's going to be a long drive. Okay, let's say, I don't know if you're going to get there in one piece, though. Let's say you have a 1,000-mile trip to go, okay? And you're sitting in the back seat, and you know it's been 1,500 or 2,000 miles, and you're still driving. As a passenger in that car, what are you going to start to think? Are we lost? Are we going to die? Are we ever going to get there? Do you know where you're going, Tanner? Because it's been way longer than you said. That is the same reason why Christopher Columbus lied to his crew about the mileage. Because they would start to hear, we're that far out here and haven't made landfall, we're dead. Or you're lost. Or we haven't found land yet, and look how far we've gone. So, while he was a pretty horrible person to natives, you can't argue that. Is that smart as a captain of your ship to lie in the log so your crew doesn't get worried? Is that good leadership? Yes, it is. Do you want them to kill you and say, you're a terrible captain and dump you overboard?
Yeah.
Then you're not a good captain.
That's why I'm the navigator.
Yeah, that's why you're not the captain. So he lied for their own morale, so they don't get worried and start getting anxious. Okay? So here's what you need to do. Figure out who has the highest common sense rating. Spin. Portuguese. You must add 1 to your spin. If you fail the spin, you go to the supply chart and spin on that. Find who has the best seamanship. Spin for it. Portuguese, you have to add 1. If you fail the spin, go to the chart.